Okay, so for those of you who just logged in, welcome. This is Ready to Raise Funds by Ascender, and make sure that you have the chat box open right now. We're going to be sharing important information, and we're going to get started soon. So welcome everybody. If this is your first time here at one of our Ascender events, welcome. It's nice to have you. If this is not your first time here at one of our Ascender events, welcome back, and it's nice to see familiar faces and some friends. My name is Anya Aleman, Innovation Director here at Ascender. And then just to provide you a little quick overview of who we are Pittsburgh's community for entrepreneurs. We offer an incubator program and educational programs that happen monthly, twice a month, expert coaching, business incubation, and run an entrepreneur-focused co-working space near Bakery Square. So for those of you who are from Pittsburgh, Bakery Square just reopened. So if you're planning on coming to the East Liberty area, make sure to stop at Ascender first, and then you can go and enjoy Bakery Square. That's just one of the plans that I just made for you. But if you want to check out what we have to offer, please make sure to visit our website where you can learn more about all of our programs and also the memberships that we offer. Today's session is part of our monthly educational series. And this series happens, we have a specific month, a specific theme every month. And this month theme is Make Money Moves. And we really are here to, this month we want you to really explore and figure out, whether you're ready to raise funds or if fundraising is a priority of you in the next few months. How can you really find out whether you're ready and what to do, and what are some of the tasks and actions that you need to take in place to really have a successful fundraising round. So in our website also you can find curated information, templates and articles to really help you reflect and think about, how do you really get your business financial success, and also how do you, understand a little bit more about how to raise funds. Also this month we have another event, and that's going to be on June 29th. This is going to be Real Talk with Investors. So we're going to have two investors. You send your questions in advance, and then they're going to have an honest and candid conversation and try to answer them as much as possible throughout 1 hour. So we will also, you can register on Eventbrite, and we'll have the website there in the chat box as well. Every month that we bring, that we do these free educational events, we bring experts from the community, founders and serial entrepreneurs themselves. And I'm very, very excited to really introduce our speakers for today's session. And that is Ferguson-Rau and Craig Markovitz. Not only are they serial entrepreneurs and have extensive experience in innovation, entrepreneurship, and really how to navigate that entrepreneurial journey, but they also are very prominent experts in the entrepreneur community here in Pittsburgh, and love to give back to entrepreneurs here. So that's why you see them here today. So I'm really excited about what they have prepared for us today. We're gonna have, today's session is going to be two parts. We're gonna have a presentation at the beginning and then an open discussion. So that you make sure to be writing down your questions and be ready to participate after the presentation. So with that said, Christine and Craig, if you want to do a really quick intro, and then we'll go right into the presentation. You can take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ania, very much. I'm Christine Ferguson-Rau, and I have Ferguson Financial Consulting. I help early stage companies from early stage to middle market raise funds and increase their corporate valuations.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Craig Markovitz. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at Carnegie Mellon, but I've actually spent most of my life on your side of the table. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, started multiple companies, raised capital from lots of different kinds of sources, became very expert in hearing no from investors, which is something that you're going to have to get familiar with if you're not already. And we could talk a little bit about that today. Happy to be here and have a chance to chat with all of you.
Okay, ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay, very well. So, are you ready to raise capital for your startup? this is a list of things which I hope won't overwhelm anybody, but we're just going to kind of step through some preparatory steps to get ready to raise capital. Okay. I am not advancing. Oh, new. Okay. All right, I'm trying to move the slides forward. Oh, there we go. Okay. So to begin, I'm going to go through a number of items and then I'll have the complete checklist at the end. So an early activity is to do market research to get some verifiable data on the business model that you are going to form a company around, and get hard data to demonstrate the need and viability of your business idea. Some of that research you can do yourself. Some of it is free, some of it you have to pay for, but it's important to be able to have hard data about the size of the market you're entering, the competitive landscape, that kind of thing. Okay, do you have fellow travelers on the journey? So when you're getting ready to raise funds, it is a good idea to have an experienced mentor or advisor to help you understand the process, help you along the way, someone to ask questions of, because it can be quite a journey, and it's sometimes there's some bumps in the road. It's good to have somebody along that has done it before. Even if this is not your first time raising funds, it's always good. I always say 2 minds are better than 1 and 5 are better than 2. So having folks to speak with is a very good idea. Having a co-founder, someone you trust, I know that there are pros and cons to that. I've done it both ways. But it can be very lonely to be an entrepreneur, and having somebody on the journey with you can be beneficial. Having a colleague to talk with about the trials and tribulations of the journey, but also having some balance to the team, bringing a different skill set to the team. Investors can see benefit in that. All right, a business plan. Business plans a long time ago were always the starting point for new businesses. There's some discussion about whether or not that's mandatory anymore, but if it's the first time startup, and really for any startup, it's a great place to start. It's just a document. There's lots of templates online that you can get, and I'm sure Ascender has them as well, but write down, what is your business? How will your business make money? What's your business model? What's your marketing plan? What's your sales process? All those things. Consider them and write them down in detail. And then the numbers, financial modeling and pro forma analysis. So you need to understand, and I can't say this enough because I've worked with so many companies that they come and they want to have help raising funds, but they don't have good records of the business that they've done, the money that they've spent. They don't have a financial model for the business going forward. And there's not really I can't overstate enough how important it is to be diligent in this analysis. And investors really want to know, they want to see detail, and they want to know that you know your numbers. They want to know how much money the business is going to make, when that money is going to be made, how fast you're going to grow, when the business will turn a profit, how much capital is going to be needed to get it to profitability. Okay. Potential customers. Have you identified your prototypical customer? Have you spoken with them? Have you gotten feedback from them? Do you have a testimonial from a major client that is interested in your idea? I've worked with startups that they've actually been starting a business because there's an identified need in the market for something, and they already have a company interested in working with them once they get launched. Or it could be a discovery phase where you're just trying to identify your prototypical customer. It's a very good exercise. Your ability. So is there a reason why you're going into this business? I worked with a CPG company over the last year where the founder had spent 20 years in the industry in which she was starting a company already. She had a huge network in the industry and was one of the biggest assets of the company, her prior record. So does the CEO, do members of the team have real background in the area in which they're starting a company? Prior experience, proven credentials. It's not a requirement, but it's a good idea. If you don't have those kinds of credentials, if you don't have a history in the industry in which you want to start a company, then showed evidence that you have outside resources that are going to help you gain knowledge in that industry, perhaps advisors on your team, training that you're going to take. A brand. There is always a section in the business plan that talks about your marketing plan, your advertising. Creating a brand demonstrates the viability and character of your business, your market placement, and it gives a concise and creative way to drive the concept of your business forward for investors. The ask, and this is going to fall out from the pro forma analysis that was done previously in your business plan. How much money do you need? When do you need it? What will you use it for? So it's really a good idea. I've seen people, how much do you need? $1 million. You know, how much do you need? $500,000, whatever. Just they feel like they have a number they have to have. When really what needs to be said is, I've identified the needs. I need to hire this type of skill set. I have a person in mind that wants that job. I need to rent this space. I need to buy this equipment. It's going to cost this much. I know how long the lead time is. I need the money now. This is how much I need to do that. If I get this money, I'm going to do this with it, and it's going to result in this kind of revenue uptick. And if I get this much financing, it's going to get me to profitability. The payoff and the exit. So how will investors get their money back? When will they get their money back? What will be their return on investment? If you're crowdfunding, what rewards will your investors get for different levels of investment? There are different models in different industries. I think everybody's familiar with the healthcare startups where there is FDA approval required. It's a very long process. There, in those industries, many times there's an exit before profitability. CPG is similar, consumer packaged goods. There's a huge amount of upfront investment that has to be invested before you get to reasonable profitability, and often those companies are acquired before profitability. But there are other models like SaaS models where there's going to be profitability before acquisition. So understanding the industry that you're starting a business in and what the expectation is, what the time frame is, how much capital, how capital intense that business is, are all really very valuable. And thinking through these things before you raise money. I'm not saying you're going to know all these things for certain, but thinking through them and having a good response that's prepared for these questions when you're asked is a very good idea. And then your pitch decks. So you're going to have a pitch deck that you're going to use to show to investors. And then you're going to have an intro deck that's sort of just a teaser version of the pitch deck that is much skinnier than the actual pitch deck, just to gauge interest. So I was helping a company just a few months ago, and we were gauging interest with a high level deck, this little teaser deck. And then when an investor raised their hand and said, yes, we want more information, then we had the additional full scale pitch deck, and then supplemental decks with lots of detail in them for people that wanted that level, that were seriously interested. An investment summary is a great thing to have, and it's a great tool. So a one single page with the highlights of the investment and how much you want, the ask, and what you're going to do with it, and the milestones that you're going to reach if you get the money. A term sheet. It's a very, I've worked with many companies and seen lots of them where they spend all their time on the pitch deck, getting ready for the pitch. And then somebody comes forward and says, okay, I like your pitch. I want to give you money. What are the terms? And they're, oh, we didn't think anybody was going to say yes. We weren't ready for that. So thinking through those things is a very good idea, because you might have someone that comes forward very quickly. So, and this is one way to think through what's important to you. where do you see yourself in this mix? How much equity do you want to hang on to? How much money do you want to take in? Who's on your board? Or is everyone on your board going to have voting rights? Or are there going to be some that don't? What valuation are you assuming in your initial documents? So lots of things to think about. Good idea to think through these things ahead of time and think through them with other people that have experience in the deals at the stage that your company is. Okay, then potential sources of investment. Bootstrapping, how far along can you get before you have to take in outside money? I was lucky enough that my first startup, I never took in outside money. We had a business model that cash flowed very quickly, so I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Lots of companies, depending on the business model, again, if it's CPG, there's going to be it's capital intensive. There's a lot of money needed, and it's needed up front. And that's just not going to be possible. But depending on the business that you're in, the longer you can bootstrap and show progress and milestones without taking in capital, the better an investor is going to like it. It's going to show your investment in the business, how hard you work, and also you're going to keep, the further along you are when you start to raise capital, the more equity you get to hang on to, which is a very important goal for you. Then we move to friends and family, who are usually the earliest investors in. They know you, they care for you, they believe in you. They're going to be the easiest sell. But it's really important that there should be terms for them too. It shouldn't be casual. It should be very a structured investment, just like anyone. Moving on to seed, anywhere from 50,000 to $1 million. These are not hard and fast limits, just a bracketing, just to give you an idea. When you're very early stage, angels, angel funds, individual investors, and early stage venture capital funds that like to see that are willing to invest in companies pre-revenue are good options. And it's a very good idea. Well, we'll talk about that later. And then moving on to a Series A, where you have made progress with your seed investment and you're raising larger amounts of money, where you want to talk with strategic investors and VCs if you need that level of capital infusion to grow. Okay, this is important, the investor fit. Every investor isn't right for every company. So understand, do your research, and luckily there's so many ways to do this now. There's lots of platforms that demonstrate investors and what they're interested in. They actually post their own profiles and let you know what they're interested in. What do they like to invest in? Are they early stage? Are they lead investors? Do they take a lead? What stage of company do they prefer to invest in? Is there a investor vertical that they're interested in? They only like SaaS or technology, or they focus only on fintech. They like manufacturing. They're specializing in consumer packaged goods. They like renewable energy. There's lots of there's ag tech. There's folks that really do have expertise or experience in a vertical, and that's where they like to stay. And if you're in ag tech, definitely find investors that want to play in ag tech. Don't waste your time on folks that are in fintech. I think it's obvious. Okay, then investor data. So make a list of the potential investors. This is where you use your network and anybody that you know, anybody that's known your work that can help you with introductions. But find a place to collect that data, make that list. And then every time you engage with one of those investors or you do outreach, make a record of it. Note the ones that are not interested so you can start to sort of have an investor funnel that you're going to move forward to investors that want to work with you. And if you get a no, and you will, lots of them, ask them why, see if they'll tell you. Never hurts to ask. And that's how we learn. It's iterative. So there's the checklist, and I hope nobody's left the call because there's 17 bullet items. I'm happy to share this with anyone that would like it afterwards. And then we have a visual, again, to show the investment, startup financing, the type of investment that you begin with and where you head as your company grows. And I've certainly taken enough time with that, and I'd love to hear some questions, and I know that Craig would like to engage and answer them as well.
Sure. I'll just, thanks, Christine. Before we jump into questions, I just want to put at least an idea in everyone's head, right? So one of the goals of our discussion today is to try to understand when you're ready for an investor, right? And now you have some detail and a framework to help you build your story, right? But I think it'll be helpful for just a minute if we just take a second and put ourselves in the mind of an investor, right? So you can have all this data, you can have all this information, you can put it all together in such a way that you can get people excited about what you're doing. But let's just be sympathetic towards an investor for a second, which sometimes can be hard to do, right? Because they're the ones that are writing the checks. But an investor, regardless of where they fall here in this continuum, whether they're an angel investor that does early stage with their own money or with a pool of money, all the way up through professional investors, they really have one sort of calculation, one driving principle in their collective heads that they use to help make decisions. And if we understand that, it will help you as budding entrepreneurs think about how to position, how to frame, how to promote your opportunity so the investors get excited about it. And really that single principle that we can keep in mind is balancing the risk reward calculation. An investor will think, as they look at your opportunity, how risky is it? How much risk am I willing to assume? And what is the potential payoff? What's the upside, right? What's the reward? And the more you can promote and support massive reward, however you define it, however the investor defines it, while taking appropriate measures to mitigate or minimize risk, the more likely it is that they're going to be interested. So as you think about these points and you go through our 17 data points and you think about building your story, right? Think about positioning it in such a way that you're using those data points to build your story, to validate your concept, to talk about your impact, how you'll benefit customers, how you can build a profitable business, right? And taking all those steps to support the upside, right? While using your credibility and the progress that you've made in your network and all the other important points that Christine talked about as risk mitigants, right? So minimize the risk, maximize the potential for upside. Tilt that equation in your favor as much as possible. And that's what will help you stand out among all the other investment opportunities that investors are reviewing. And once you feel comfortable with that story and supporting that argument, you'll have a good sense that you're ready to start talking to outsiders and start talking to investors. So just something to think about, simple principle, right? Balance that risk and reward, promote your expertise, your benefit, and the opportunity for you to be successful. And any investor will be interested in jumping aboard and helping an effort like that. So that's all I wanted to say. I think that we're ready to open it up for questions. Ascender folks, I don't know how you want to moderate questions, but we'll turn it over to you to help us with navigation from this point forward.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much, Christine and Craig. But we wanted to take, the rest of the program to really have an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. I know we asked you a couple of questions in the event form, but we wanted to make sure that we can start an open discussion. So let's see who has a pressing question, either from the presentation or for something that you brought in today.
Is anyone currently raising capital? Would want to share their experiences? Is anyone thinking about raising capital anytime soon? Someone has to break the ice here. Jennifer.
Tanika actually raised.
All right, go ahead, Anne. You manage it.
Tanika, go ahead. I think I saw that hand first.
Oh, I just wanted to respond. Yes, I am interested in raising capital. I have started applying and looking into different lenders. I did I guess it's a really safe situation with the Kiva loan. That was pretty cool. And yeah, so I've started working on something called a pitch deck and an investor memo. So I'm just educating myself on the process, but I own theladycarpenter.com. I work as a carpenter. I also collect houses, but I really enjoy interacting with people and empowering other women, especially, to, just, take responsibility for their situation, to develop strategies to regain financial confidence by using themselves and their skill as an enterprise, and just interacting with the youth, and so that within 10 years, when you ask a young lady or a kid, or even a woman, what do you want to do with your life, becoming a lady carpenter or a lady carpenter business owner is now an option. Before me, there were no lady carpenters. Well, there were lady carpenters, but the title didn't exist. So I definitely want to take this empowerment brand to the world, introduce it to the universe, and get it beyond me. And so I am looking for people to invest in me and my vision. And so now I'm starting to raise capital.
That's great. And so as I listen to your story, I think about different strategies, right? Kiva and others definitely represent good opportunities for raising funds, but you have a social impact aspect to your business, right? You're not exclusively sort of profit focused or growth focused as just sort of like a very focused capitalist, right? You want to do some good, and having a social impact mission along with your efforts to build a profitable, sustaining company, I think opens up a lot of opportunity for you. You can go after foundations, and you can look at economic development and corporations, right, that want to support diversity and other initiatives that are in your space. So make sure that as you think about this, you become an expert, not just in your industry, not just being a carpenter, right, but the players, the suppliers of raw materials, the larger companies, folks that have achieved success and perhaps are willing to offer some philanthropic support to the industry, right? And so there's a lot of different options you can pursue as you think about how do you get in front of folks, how do you get them excited about your story?
Right. Yes, and that's why I'm here, to learn, how do I do this successfully? I'm a carpenter. I would love to be an expert at raising funds, but I'm, I guess failing forward or taking baby steps. But if I'm trying to learn and master this so that I can be effective, for myself and the people who will be impacted, I feel a sense of responsibility to figure this out and find that money and put it to good use. So I'm really pushing myself to understand how this works. But thank you for all that feedback and insight, and I hope to connect with you to get more information to get to the next level.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you so much. And I saw Jennifer Price hand, and then Cassie.
Hi, so I am the founder of a startup that's in the streaming media space. So I've created a streaming app that'll be available through Roku. So it's very it's very capital intensive startup, because you have to acquire content, whether you're acquiring someone else's content or whether you are going to create your content. Of course, you have to pay actors and things. But the focus of the app and the niche that will be different from other platforms is that it's going to be content that's created by people with disabilities. So it was born out of being in spaces of addressing the pain point by people within this community of not seeing representation of themselves in TV and film, and entering the market at a time when this is really taking a national issue from other companies and such. But my question is, my background is being a disability law attorney. So that's how I was introduced to this space of being in the disability community. So I have that aspect or box checked in the sense of how am I going from being a lawyer to the media space. But I have some concerns, because I also think that that's the biggest weakness of my startup right now, is that I don't have anyone who is a technology expert, and I don't have a co-founder. So I'm wondering, and when raising capital, I mean, realistically, how is that going to be viewed by an investor? Because in my head, one of the things that I would be using the money for would be to hire and build out the team. Yeah, so that would be my question. How is that realistically viewed by an investor?
So hi, Jen. It's good to see you. Congratulations on your new idea. And again, my comments about a co-founder, you don't have to have one. You don't. It's if you found somebody that wanted to co-found with you that had the technology expertise, that is one way to approach it. But hiring a team is another, obviously, absolutely. And again, what Craig mentioned about you have a social mission as well, so you're going to have access to capital and a lot of, DCED money and buckets of money that are not available to just straight for-profit endeavors. But there's so many things on that list that you can do. The business plan, the go-to-market strategy, who is going to be your customer, what is the revenue, what's the go-to-market strategy, what is the revenue model. There's so much to be done. And once that's all developed, and I know you'll do that, you'll find investors that are interested. I think you've got quite a track record in your industry and a solid reputation helping those folks. So yeah, it's again, the co-founder, it's something to think about. That's why it's on the list. It's not a requirement.
But finding folks with technical talent, which is what you're looking for, hard to do. Lots of folks looking for technical co-founders and technical help. And so you're off to a great start just by being here, right? Being a strong networker. And I can't overemphasize to all of you on the line the importance of being a networker, right? Of building your network, of meeting people, of offering to help and being a resource, and then conversely being able to access your network, right, for help and resources. You sort of think about what needs to be done to help you build your business. So network, do everything you can to get visibility and learn where these people are. But I think it's okay. I agree with Christine. I think it's okay when you're going out and talking to investors to identify that as a task, right? You don't have to have all the answers when you talk to investors. Otherwise, you don't need the investor, right? But you have a plan and you have sort of what we call fundable milestones, right? Really important milestones and accomplishments that help move the business forward. And bringing technical talent into your effort as an important early fundable milestone, right? Inflection point for the business, I think aligns exactly with what Christine is saying. Identify, get out in front of it, and geez, your investors should be a great networking resource. You go to your investors and say, help me meet people through your other portfolio or for other folks, right? So, I'm an advocate for just do it, right? If you sit around and wait until you have the perfect team, until you have all of your ducks in a row, you're never going to get anywhere, right? So you sort of, you kind of beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission, right? You just go do stuff as an entrepreneur, and good things will happen.
Thank you. Cassie, you had a question?
Sure. I had originally raised the hand and trying to break the ice with who's thinking about raising money. I'm not currently looking to raise money, but it is on my radar. I have founded a company called Mirror, and it's a virtual gathering space. My goal is to create more ways that people can authentically connect with each other, something like between your therapist and a group of friends. And the gatherings are organized by themes, so that if it's something you're working on with your therapist or something you're going through yourself, but maybe your friends aren't going through it, like grief, loss of someone close to you in your life, maybe losing a job. Another thing could be like codependency, working to create and define boundaries in your life. Maybe it's learning how to receive love, getting over your like bad boy phase, whatever it is, we want to narrow it down so people can come together and connect with others who are working through something similar. So I have recently started applying to some incubators and accelerators as I'm new to this space. And as I'm learning more and more about making the pitch deck and learning about term sheets, I had the co-founder question as well, Jennifer. So I'm glad you asked it, because sometimes talking to incubators and investors, they want to know about co-founders, and I'm a female solo non-technical founder of my company. Another myth I'm curious about debunking besides the co-founder one is I'm also consulting part-time. I don't hold a full-time job, but although Mirror is currently profitable, it's not how I am paying my salary to live my life. What do you think about raising money and working to get into incubators while your startup isn't your full-time gig?
Christine, you want to jump on that one?
Oh, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. People do it all the time. There's no musts in entrepreneurship. It's like, do whatever the scrappiest thing is, right? Like just go do it. Absolutely. There's no, yeah, don't let anybody, if anybody tells you these are where the guardrails are, just ignore them. There's no guardrails. It's like, do what you can do to move forward, and God bless you. I mean, my first startup, I worked for the first 10 months, the first 10 months of the launch, because, you know, it wasn't big enough. And then it was, and then I never went back to doing anything else. So that's a normal thing to start as a side hustles turn into big companies all the time.
That's helpful. I appreciate it. And then the co-founders, I hear it's helpful to have, but then I talk to lawyers and they're like, don't have a co-founder. So it like depends who you talk to.
Well, it also depends on, you don't want to just go out and pick up someone on the street corner because you need to fill a box. But if there's someone that has someone with whom you have a very trusting relationship, and they bring a lot to the table that you don't have, and they make balance in the team, and you want to go into business with them, that's very different, right? I'm not advocating for anybody to go out looking for one, but if there is an obvious one, or there's somebody that you happen to meet that has skills that you need, and that's a great thing to do, to have a colleague along on the journey.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely advocate for a multidisciplinary team, folks with complementary skills if you can. You know, at Carnegie Mellon, we love a 3-team co-founding group: a hacker who's the technical person, a hustler who's the business person, and a designer who's the UX person, right? The customer experience, customer interface. Sounds great on paper. It's really hard to do, right? But be on the lookout for complementary skills. And then there are ways for you as the founder to protect yourself. So you do bring people in, you think you hit it off, and you can, you know, understand concepts like vesting shares, like, you know, kind of starting small with discrete projects. And that's why it's important that you're here and that you're tied into Ascender and you have access to folks that have done that before, right? That can provide you with advice and make sure that you don't, you know, make a catastrophic mistake as you're trying to build your business, right? We've all made mistakes. You will make mistakes. I make mistakes every day, right? That's just the nature of the beast here, right? As being an entrepreneur. But you know, there are some guidelines and the benefit of experience that you can all draw upon, right? So I think it's important to build your network. I think it's important to surround yourself with folks that are different from you, that have complementary skills. It's going to help your business. It's going to help you, and how you structure that and protect yourself, you know, is a matter of just talking to folks that have done it before.
Become very familiar with buy-sell agreements.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. And I think I saw our grandmother's hair raise her hand. No, before.
She was driving, so I'm kind of glad that she hopefully pulled over. Oh, there she is. I hope you're not driving anymore.
I'm sorry.
We can always come back to you later. Yeah. So next was, I'm not sure. Let's see, Daniel and then Pierce.
Yeah, hi. I'm Daniel Stewart. My wife and I, she's also, she's on a different screen for this video, but we are starting Mama Lux, and we're in the Ascender incubation program. And I was hoping that somebody could speak a little bit more to the timing aspect, not necessarily of when you need to raise funds, but of, you know, say you are fortunate enough to get in a room with somebody, you give them your pitch, they say, I want to invest. What's the general timing before, you know, that conversation to when the money is actually in your account? And I ask because Mama Lux is a company that does postpartum sleepwear, mainly for nursing mothers. And so there's a big inventory component to it, and an inventory management. And so, you know, it's important to have cash available, you know, when it's needed to manufacture product, move product, store it, you know, whatever the case. So I'm hoping that someone can speak maybe to their experience just in terms of how long it takes to actually get these deals from, you know, the handshake to the money is in the account and ready to go out.
So that's a great question. Of course, it's a lot quicker if you're prepared for it. So it's one thing for someone to say, here, I want to give you whatever. And it's another thing for you to have a way to bring that money in. And there are legal documents required make that process happen. And you can get them all done in advance of somebody saying, I want to give you $100,000 tomorrow, right? So if you're ready to bring it in, it can happen in within 4 hours with a wire transfer, if you have the documents ready. Getting the documents ready requires understanding what they're buying. So you need what's your corporate formation? You need a unit price or a share price. There's a lot to that question. But I'm sure that you could get a lot of help from folks to help you walk through that process and identify all those steps to take to get there. That's a longer, I don't think we have time to address everything in this forum, but I'm happy to talk to you later. Craig, is there something you want to mention?
Yeah, so you definitely need to talk to Christine about sort of the mechanics of it, but my answer is not fast enough, right? No matter what they say, the money doesn't come in fast enough, right? So once you get buying signals from people, right? A lot of this game is you're sort of introducing yourself. You walk up to someone and you introduce yourself and you give them your 30-second elevator pitch, right? And you want to get them excited enough so they say, well, that's really interesting, I want to learn more. And then you have an opportunity to send them your executive summary and then do your 15 or 20 minute investment presentation. And all along the way, you're just trying to avoid them saying no, right? So it's this game of reading the buying signals and of getting, teasing people enough and getting them excited about the opportunity so they just continue to show interest until they get to the point where they've done an appropriate amount of due diligence, they're comfortable with the investment opportunity, and they're going to write you a check, right? And so there's a process that typically follows, and it varies based on size of check, stage of company, type of investor. So there's really no hard and fast rule that says, well, if someone says, I would love to invest in your company, you can expect a check in X number of days or months. But there are things you could do to expedite the process. Christine's absolutely spot on, right? Have your acts together, know your metrics, know the answers to your questions. In my experience, what is also helpful is to try and build with this individual, sort of the checklist, right? So what do you need specifically, right? You need my corporate docs. Do you need to talk to a reference? Do you, and if you have a list of specifically, as specific as they'll give you, of what they need in order to be comfortable to make the decision and write you the check, then you're executing on something and you can just check the boxes, right? Rather than in some sort of ambiguous, well, we're interested, we want to learn more, maybe send me this, maybe send me that. The more disciplined you can be about understanding what they want and what they need, so you can respond and give it to them, the higher the likelihood that they're going to be excited to write the check sooner than later. It's all about how you manage their relationship.
Sure.
And about process, it's a process, and there is a specific process to it. So we're talking, yeah, yeah, we could have a whole session on that. I hope that's helpful.
Maybe next month. Yeah, thank you.
That's good. And next is Pierce.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I just wanted to circle back to something that Christine was talking about earlier. That's really important to me. I place a lot of emphasis on in terms of trying to figure out how much, to ask for, whenever you are going out to raise. I was on a call with a colleague who just, he's a co-founder of one of the local sort of VCs that just sprouted up. And this is what we talked about this for like 30 minutes because I was trying to ask him, get a better understanding, like, if I'm coming to, a group of investors, how much should I ask for? And he's like, well, you need to be able to understand what it is that you need in order to take your, your startup to the next level. But Christine said something a little bit different, because he was like, yeah, come up, you got to have your numbers together. Like you should know that, in order to, hire these many engineers, customer service people to do, marketing, it should cost X, like a dollar amount. And Christine was like, well, maybe you should just lead with what it is that you need to do. So I was just figuring out which, should you lead with the number or just with the need of what it is?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. Thank you. Because that's something that we could spend a whole session on. But what I tried to convey, and I know I covered a lot in a short period of time, is that there's a pro forma, right? A pro forma is a projection of what you think is going to happen. So you're going to make a product. And that product is going to be sold for a certain amount. And you expect that you're going to be able to sell your first one in 3 months. And you need to cover 3 months worth of production, salaries of people or equipment or whatever to make the product. Or you have a co-packer, a co-manufacturer that's going to do it for you. But the first production run has to be 1,000 units, and you need this much money for that first run, and you can't sell the product until you make it. And so you have to have enough money to pay for that first run to get you where you're going. All of that, all of those ideas, those concepts are codified in a pro forma in numbers, and it's laid out over time. And in that document, you lay it out in monthly increments, and every month at the end of the day, you're going to have a cash need. We need to spend this much money to get our company to move forward, and we need this much cash. And so maybe you're going to an investor to get enough cash to get you to a milestone, which might be a certain production capacity, or you might be trying to raise enough money to get to a certain revenue level, or a certain milestone showing that you're gaining traction going forward. And that pro forma is going to show you how much you need. Let me give you an example. I worked with a company in 2018, a very successful company with a product in the cloud, very specialized. It doesn't matter what the product was, but they asked me to help them with their pro forma. We worked on the pro forma together. They needed $500,000 to get them to profitability. They had a wonderful sales pipeline. They had a wonderful funnel. They had lots of business. They just needed enough money to get them to the next milestone so that they had enough cash coming in to pay for the costs to continue forward. That's all they needed. But they had other folks telling them, you really need to take $2 million. You need to take there's investors that want to give you 2 million. So if you take in 2 million and you really don't, it's like, okay, well, let's say you're going to get 2 million. What are you going to use it for? And how much equity you're going to give up in your company that you've spent blood, sweat, and tears growing because somebody told you that you need this larger sum. So there really is a way to figure out how much money you need. And if you understand your company well, and it's documented, the numbers will tell you how much you need. Now, a pro forma is wrong the minute it's written. It's a projection. So it's in the future. So things can change, and they do. But you can do versions of it. If everything goes well, this is what it's going to look like. If everything goes poorly, this is what it's going to look like. If we sell our product more quickly, it's this. If we sell it less, or there's a COVID-19, it's this, right? But still, there's a mathematical model that helps you understand how much money you need. It's not a number you pull out of the air. And I'm not saying that because of your question, but I've had that question come to me from other people. I was in a situation in a pitch event, and somebody went up to one of the entrepreneurs and said, you never asked for less than this. Everybody asks for this much. It was just this number. And it's not like that. There's a business model. There's a timing aspect to it. There are costs that you need to incur in order to move your business forward. Those things are real. Of course, there's margins of error, which you can take account of, but it's really important to write that business plan and create the financials and do the projections to figure out how much you need.
Thank you.
Righty, and next we have Dave.
Hey there, Craig. It's been about 18 months since I've seen you, but it's nice to see you over here.
Yeah, well, I hope to see you back in the sports center sometime soon. We'll see.
Hey, that's up to Alex, man. But my company, Daedal, we've actually taken a lot of the advice that Craig and Christine have been talking about. 3-person team. We share in all of the work. We completed as I mentioned in the chat, we completed a very successful pilot project. We are still pre-revenue, and right now we are kind of bumping up to the limits of what we can build infrastructure-wise by bootstrapping. So we haven't taken any dilution, we haven't taken any money. We also don't have any profit or revenue at this point, and we're only now starting to really fill up that sales pipeline, find the 200 or so groups that we think our product would be really good for. And we're just kind of in this situation where we're a little bit past the point where we know what the product is going to be, and we've built a version of it. We need to build a better version of it. And we just kind of need to get to that point where we're looking for angels or seed or maybe even venture or something like that. So I just wanted to get your opinion on what we should do at this point.
Well, I never tell anybody what to do, because what do I know, right? And any advisor that ever tells you what to do, you should run from, because what do they know, right? I mean, this is your business. You live it 24/7. Advisors are good for perspective, are good for shoulders to cry on, are good for ideas and introductions, and making sure that you don't make the same mistakes that we have made. But no one should tell you what to do. That's why you're entrepreneurs, right? So no one tells you what to do. But so there's a lot to unpack there, and the fact that you have de-risked the product, you understand how it works. More importantly, you understand the benefit that it brings to your customer, right? And you've identified your initial customer segment, those 200 organizations that would benefit and be interested in using your product. That is all traction, right? That's all progress that you've made that is beyond theory, that is factual, and that you can use to support that risk reward calculation, right? Everything that you said mitigates risk around this concept, right? Now we need to focus on promoting the potential and the upside. So can you start to go out to those organizations and show them a demo and get them excited about what you're doing? Get a PO, get some sort of expression of interest, right? So you can start to build a sales pipeline. So then you can go to investors and say, we did all this work, we did our early pilot, we've got this V1 of our product, we've shown it to 200 organizations that are in this field of our initial customer segment. 50 of them have provided us with buying signals. We need to raise capital now to get our sales rolling, to execute on our plan for world domination. And then those are tasks that investors are interested in funding. Without going too far on a tangent, and some of you may have heard this from me before, the Dropbox story is a great story for how to do that, right? So you all know Dropbox, the file sharing service, right? They built a 5-minute demo video, and you can find it on YouTube, the original Dropbox demo video, to show you how it worked. They didn't invent cloud storage, but they made it more simple and straightforward and more user-friendly and more intuitive. And they showed this amazing video that showed all the capabilities of how Dropbox would work. And they had a landing page, website, and it said, this is Dropbox, here's our video, we're in private beta, give us your email address, and when we're ready for release, we'll let you know, right? They collected 800,000 emails, and the entire video was staged. They hadn't built the product yet, they didn't have the money. They took that video, they took those 800,000 email addresses of folks that were interested in buying and using the product, used that to talk to institutional investors, raise money. Got the money, built the product, the rest is history, right? So there's lessons to be learned from that, and I think it would be applicable for Dado. I think you can do that. I think you're in execution phase, right? Show that there's a place in this, for this product in the market. People are expressing a willingness to buy because you solve an acute problem for them, and now you need capital for execution.
Thanks. The concept of like the execution phase was the phrase that eluded me. No, but thank you for kind of like laying it out like that.
All right, thank you so much. We have a few minutes left. If anybody has any more pressing questions, feel free to unmute yourself or send it over in the chat box.
I was curious if Christine had anything to say too. I mean, I kind of called Craig out, but you know.
I have 100,000 things to say, and I would probably like to know a lot more about where you are. And manufacturing is kind of the center of my heart. I love manufacturing. I love, and the one thing I would say, I don't know, and I don't have enough background to give you a really cogent response. But one thing I would say that I see, mistakes I see over and over and over again with anybody that has that's going to, am I confusing you with somebody else? You are manufacturing something, right? Or no?
It's a tech, it's a SaaS product.
Okay, SaaS, never mind. Okay, I'm sorry, I was thinking about another person that spoke before. Yeah, I think that it sounds like you said that you're already looking at a sales pipeline. I mean, you already have a product, you already have identified your customer, have you actually done customer research where you've sat down with them and said, what do you like, what don't you like? Have you done that kind of direct analysis?
We had an extended, I guess you would call it, customer discovery session way back in 2019, prior to COVID, and that kind of bridged the gap between learning whether or not what we envisioned our product doing was actually a problem that needed to be solved. That's where it started, and it flowed through to eventually asking questions and about features that our software would be implementing and whether that would be of value. We need to probably have about 500 more of those conversations over the next couple of months. But we have kind of a mini pipeline of a few people that we need to talk to next week.
If you think about that checklist, that terrible 17-point checklist, how many of those do you already, is there any work to be done, or are you pretty much checking them all off?
We haven't checked off the questions of the term sheet. That was something that I was focused on when you brought that up. The concept of looking for the investors after we've kind of hitched off all of the other revenue concerns and the traction items that Craig brought up. The question of finding the people who are very interested in what we're doing, because like some of the other entrepreneurs here, there's also a social benefit, and that is one of the things that I could probably tell you offline, since we only have 3 minutes. I mean, I apologize to everybody, I don't want to monopolize the time, but that's would this be, since you're in manufacturing and this is tech, would it make sense for us to talk a little bit about this offline so I can tell you a little bit more about the 17-point checklist that I have executed on?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Sure, absolutely.
Awesome.
And I think you guys are gonna happy to do that. Absolutely.
And along those lines, I unfortunately have a hard stop here, and I just want to say for a quick second, it was great to see you all here, and I'm easy to find. The Senator folks know how to get a hold of me. You can find me on Carnegie Mellon's website. I'm always happy to talk to folks and listen and offer some points and introductions and those sorts of things. So please don't hesitate to reach out if I can help. And always a pleasure to see everyone from Ascender and you, Christine. So.
You too, Craig. Thanks so much for doing this with me. And this was great. I'm glad everybody showed up too. This was terrific. And I'm available too. I'm easy to find. Just reach out on LinkedIn.
Great. Thank you both, Craig and Christine. Thank you everybody for attending. Again, we will have all of this information in the website for you, so you can, go over anything that you may have missed. But if not, then we'll see you again at our next event on June 29th. Have a good night.